if your race is not running the way you hope, then instead of blaming the track or blaming the engineers or something about the weather, it's like, what can you do yourself? In fairy tales or in Bollywood movies, they end with saying things like they lived happily ever after. But what I tell people is never that. It's like they worked on it happily ever after, because you have to get feedback and improve all the time like you do in the workplace.
Welcome back to another episode of the Limitless Podcast. Today we have with us Rohan Mathur. He's a marketing and commercial director in the consumer business. Rohan, a warm welcome to you. How are you?
Thank you so much, Nick, for having me. Really an honor to be here and looking forward to an exciting conversation.
That's fantastic. And you're one of our first guests of the year. So really exciting time of the year to get on the show with you. I know you come fresh off your TEDx as well, which was fantastic. I watched it the second time this morning about life skills that matters in the real world. And you have a lot of viewers, a lot of comments. So a really great one on TEDx there. And before we kick off today's conversation about mindset, Rohan, just a brief introduction of yourself to the listeners, please.
Yeah, happy New Year to all of the listeners. As you say, it's the first up in the new year. A little bit about myself. I'm a consumer product guy, so I've been in the industry for about 18 years, doing marketing and sales roles in two big companies, Procter and Gamble and the Lego Group, and I have also a huge interest in speaking, and because of that, I recently did the TEDx. And thanks for your very kind words, Nick. And yeah, learning all the time how to do better. And I'm also recently getting very interested in AI. Became a certified leader myself, and now coaching some other companies. So yeah, looking forward to a conversation today.
Fantastic. So let's kick it off then. When we talk about mindset to succeed, what are the fundamentals that we should think about? And perhaps something have changed also compared to where we were 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think according to me, like mindsets, I think is really the fundamental driver of what can lead you to success. And it just doesn't have to be about the corporate success, but even about doing well in life in general. And as I mentioned in my TEDx, there are 5 different mindsets that I talk about, and we can go through them in detail. But to give an overview, I think the biggest one is really about the growth mindset or about the learning mindset. And I think Dr. Carol Dweck talked first about it in her TED talk as well, and as in her book. And that is really, I think, the cornerstone about how always wanting to learn more. And actually, in my TED talk, I use the F1 as an analogy because that's a sport I love, right? So, like compared to an F1 race, if your race is not running the way you hope, then instead of blaming the track or blaming the engineers or something about the weather, it's like, what can you do yourself? And this shift from who messed this up to what could I do differently, I think is really the cornerstone, the fundamental of the growth mindset. And there have been numerous examples in my career, or I've seen other people go through this. And I think this shift is really like a key driver of what leads to success over the long term. So that's the fundamental foundation. And then there are a few other mindsets that we can talk about as we go along.
Yes, and I would actually like you to lay out the 5 today, but since we're talking about the growth mindset there, and I agree, it's absolutely crucial. And what I really love from your TEDx is that you indeed talk about the professional world and the skills also in life, and how you open your TEDx there about the conversation with your wife, where she is expressing some major concerns. And while if this would be in the workplace, if someone in the workplace would lay something out like that, we would probably take notes, we will listen, we will really perhaps jump into that coaching mindset and so on. While in the personal life, perhaps like you shared in your TEDx, we typically just try to come up straight to solutions rather than finding the root cause or looking about the problem and show some sympathy and empathy and listening and so on. So I really like how you draw that connection there, Rohan. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on this as well today.
Yeah, no, thanks for referring to that. I think that was like a pivotal moment in my life, because a lot of times, we'll go through colleges, universities, we get the best grades, but often we don't learn about these fundamental skills that are critical for our success. And for me, it was like about listening and how to just be there and say, I'm there for you. Or even when your partner says I'm fine, then what is he or she really meaning? I think oftentimes we just sort of take words for granted and just move on, and sometimes we even don't listen. So I think it's really, as I say, that even relationships, often we will see, like in fairy tales or in Bollywood movies, they end with saying things like they lived happily ever after. But what I tell people is never that. It's like they worked on it happily ever after, because you have to get feedback and improve all the time, like you do in the workplace. So you have to listen, show empathy, and then it as is and as much as it is about with your partner, it can also be with your kids. As kids grow older, they go to teenage, they have an individual entity, and oftentimes we are in this mind, in this frame of mind of, I'll just tell you what to do. And I think that often doesn't work. And how can you really listen and say, I'm here for you, and then when you listen, they are willing to take your advice even more. And I think those approaches have helped me, and I have seen in my life as well.
That's fantastic, Rohan. And if we now then look into the 5 parts of the mindset, let's talk through them briefly for the listeners as well, to give them as a teaser today. What would be the first one there?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. So the first one really is the growth mindset that I talked about a little bit, and I can go into more detail.
Mm.
The second one is purpose-driven mindset.
Mm.
And here, if again, I'll draw the F1 analogies for each. So like in the growth mindset, we mentioned, if the race is not running well, then what do? You change your frame from blaming others to think what you can do yourself. And the purpose-driven mindset, it's about choosing the right racetrack, which is your purpose, and then building your car and driving plan accordingly, which can be your strategy. So, like a street circuit might demand precision, and you might need to have plan for higher downforce. A high-speed circuit might demand courage and a low drag, whereas a wet circuit might demand, different set of tires. So, depending on what you want to do in life, you need to change. You need to choose your strategy accordingly, which is how you will allocate time between various things and so on and so forth. That's the second one. The third one is about no comparison mindset. And here, again, the F1 analogy is that you have to focus on improving your lap time versus the previous laps and not compare with others. And I think this is really critical in our world, because we are all used to comparing, with each other. When we grow up in school and colleges, there's a grade sheet, but once you graduate, the grade sheet disappears. Everyone is on a different track, and everybody is in different industries, there's different contexts. So and what we see of each other is only like the tip of the iceberg, one metric, and we compare with that, and we don't know what other things are happening. So it's best not to compare, and I can talk a little bit more about it as we go into the details about how it panned out in my business school batches, among my batchmates. The next one is the abundance mindset, which I really learned a lot this last year in 2025, and this is all about, you have to really start the race and change the racetrack, even if you're not fully ready. I think often we try to get things perfect, or for those of us who are a little bit more humble, are always telling ourselves that, oh, we are not ready yet, and let me get perfectly ready and then I will do things. But actually, you cannot succeed with that mindset. In today's day and age, when things are changing so fast, you have to just go for it. And whatever it is, if you want to change your job, or there is like an interesting opportunity that's coming up, there's a different role, there is a different skill, you have to just go out there and start it even before you feel ready, because nobody else is going to tell you to do that. And then the last one, the fifth one, I draw a lot of inspiration from the Bhagavad Gita, which is like the holy book of the Hindus, but really it's like a classic, it's like a master class on a life, on how to spend a great life. It says that you have the right to your actions, but not to the fruits of those. And do your duty with the utmost sincerity and responsibility. Focus on what you can control, but let go of the results and let go of the anxiety. So those are the 5 mindsets: growth mindset, purpose-driven, no comparison, abundance, and then the learning from the Gita.
The learning from the Gita is the 5th. Fantastic. I love that you share these 5 with us. And I'm looking forward to perhaps hear more about this. What you're working also more on your speaking career now, is what I understand. Are these the 5 steps that you take then on to the stages?
Yeah, exactly. I think I have like the way different mindsets play in different cases, but like the TEDx, I think example is a great one. I'm not the best speaker. I'm learning. I have to improve on many ways. But when the opportunity came, the old me would have said, you know what, let me wait for 1 or 2 more years. Let me learn all the tricks of the trade and then do it. But based on all the learning, I said, you know what? I have a lot of learning and I can offer a lot, and let me just go for it. And for sure, I prepared and did some and got some advice and did my best. But I think that was like the abundance mindset in action. At the same time, I've made myself a little bit uncomfortable by joining communities that I was not a part of earlier, and taking out time from the schedules to go for these events. I mean, the APSS, the Asia Professional Speaker Society, is a great example, which holds great events, and I'm learning a lot in in that community as well, and similarly learning from other mentors. So those are
That's
like a couple of other mindsets in action in the speaking example.
I absolutely love that, Ron, and I was so happy to see you on that TEDx. And I share your feelings around. I used to also say that I'm not. Perhaps I used to say that I'm not a great speaker, but I keep challenging myself and I keep throwing myself out there. So most of my topics are about loneliness, mental health, and quite dark topics. So what did I do? I just signed up to go on a cruise from Los Angeles to Hawaii to deliver 7 entertaining talks. So that forced me to get out of that dark spot to now deliver entertainment. I'm part of the entertainment package. So of course I feel nervous and anxious when I do that, but I challenge myself to now go out and seek the best mentors and learnings. So back to your growth mindset, right? How can I deliver my talks in a more entertaining way?
Exactly.
Yeah. And
But it's a very nice, to hear about the cruise that you mentioned the other day when we met. And I think the point is that when you are younger, you feel that, oh, the people who are X years of experience have everything figured out, no. But that's never the case. Wherever you are, whether you are in secondary school, whether you are starting a job, whether you have 10 years of experience, whether you are close to retirement age, at any stage in your life, there are new challenges you can take and learn and get better and improve.
absolutely, absolutely. We're fully aligned there, Ron. I want to dig into also perhaps the uncertainty that many leaders will feel today. And of course, next word I'm going to share is about AI. What's your take on AI, and especially when it comes to mindset?
I think it's a fantastic, I mean, technology for sure. It's a great leveler, and there are a lot of opportunities out there. But what we are seeing in all the research, that the barrier to adoption isn't really tech or model quality, but actually it's the mindset, because people are a little bit nervous and not sure how to proceed. And it is this mindset barrier which is really the biggest gap to the adoption. If I go a little bit more into the detail, based on the recent studies that have come out in the last month or so from all the big consulting companies such as McKinsey, BCG, and a few others, we are seeing that people are taking it as like a tech trend, and instead of that, they need to define a robust posture, like what they want to do. And really, everybody has to go to the table and has to learn. There are some people whose jobs have been impacted by AI, so they are feeling a little bit not so positive about it. There are some people who are like, if you are using this technology, then I don't want to hear that, because I want to hear your own view. I think these are not the right mindsets. I think we need to take in with an approach of really to learn and understand what the technology can do, and align on the principles and then move ahead. At the same time, we have to bring the abundance mindset, because you will not know the answer until you try. So you have to really go for it. I think the 85% of employees in one of the research says that are stuck in this task assistant mode, whereas to reach the agentic semi-autonomous collaboration, we really need AI to start planning and executing tasks. But for it we need to for it, for that to happen, we need people to really move into it and start experimenting and starting even though they are not ready. And lastly, we talk about the purpose. A lot of companies are built around helping people grow on and so on and so on and so forth. And as per the BCG study, it highlighted that employee centric organizations are 7x more likely to reach AI maturity if they are focusing on removing the tasks that are the tasks that are where employees really need to toil instead of removing the tasks that give employees joy. So these are a few mindsets in action, and it's fascinating how this amazing technology, what is stopping it is the mindset. Analogy again from the race is like the tech can make us grow at 300 kilometers per hour, but our mindsets are still stuck in like 50 kilometers or whatever. So we need to break that to really adopt it and go full speed.
Yeah, and I like that analogy with the racing. And I think that links us to the last question for today. Perhaps many listeners or leaders out there might feel, overwhelmed by the speed of change at the moment, the pressure that comes with that and the uncertainty that comes with that. What would be the one mindset that they could practice already right away to make the biggest impact in their life?
Yeah, you asked me one, but I will probably say two. I think the first is the growth, and probably the other one I will say is the abundance. I think the growth, because you really have to learn. I think the world is really volatile, and we all talk about that there's no job security, and that is true. But probably the only thing that will ensure that you stay relevant is your learning ability. How quickly can you adapt? And it's not, you cannot predict the future, but if you can be adaptable to be ready to handle whatever future shows up, I think you can be in the right place. So that's really the growth mindset. So always keeping yourself open to learning. I think the second one is the abundance mindset, where you really go for it because nobody has the answers. Things are changing every day. Nobody has got it figured out. Even in AI, the so-called experts are maybe 2 months ahead of the rest of the people, right? So as long as you are willing to put in the effort and experimenting and test and learn, I think there is a lot of opportunity. And when again, I'm digressing a little bit, but there's also a lot of talk about young graduates these days do not have opportunities, and I think that's again true. But again, whenever I'm in such a conversation, I say that, okay, what are you prepared to do? Are you prepared to take an internship, do some project work? You always can volunteer somewhere. You always can learn something. And at that stage of your life, hopefully you also don't have a lot of financial commitments, but you should not just stay at home and say, oh, I don't have a job and I'm stressed out. And there is always something that you can do and learn and contribute. And I think by doing those things, you build momentum. And with that momentum, then, it will lead to results sooner or later.
Yeah, I love that. So ending off the show today with growth mindset and the abundance mindset, indeed. Thank you so much, Rohan, for coming on the show. I think this was an absolutely wonderful topic to kick off 2026 with. Just lastly then, if any of the listeners want to contact you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, best way is to probably just look up for me on LinkedIn, Rohan Mathur. And I reply to every message. So looking forward to hearing your thoughts, your reflections, and connecting in the new year. Thank you so much, Nick, for having me.
Thank you, Rohan. And thank